He said, quote, Mary has chosen the better part. Well, that's comparative. But I was thankful that Martha was whipping up supper. And so Kipling responded in this beautiful poem. To share a personal note, I did not know that poem, even though I'm a big Kipling fan. I didn't read all of his works, and I somehow missed Sons of Martha until one Christmas season with our Spanish exchange student. We go to visit our daughter, whose husband is based at Loring Air Force Base up in Caribou, Maine. A great place to be in December. The sun sets about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and comes up about 9 o'clock in the morning. And it was cold and snow, northern Maine. Well, we had to get out of the house some, so we ventured across to Canada, New Brunswick, to a city called Grand Falls, New Brunswick, named after a falls there in the river, St. John's River. Anybody visit up there? And we thought we were going to lose our Spanish exchange student because the river was full of ice. Even the falls was iced over. And to get down to any place down close to the power station and close to the canyon there, you just literally were on ice. And Louise all of a sudden, about 50 feet. And I'm going, well, how am I going to explain this to his parents back in Barcelona? But anyway, we all survived. But there was a column there, a memorial column, dedicated, as I discovered, to the workers who put in that. And there was an inscription. Walking around, I couldn't quite figure out where it started. Finally, I figured out where it started. And I saw the title, Sons of Martha, Kipling, talking about those whose God does not warn them when the polt is about to come loose, talking about those who go into the cascading waters and dam it up for the sons of Mary, so they have electricity and comfort in their home. So Kipling gives us a good reminder. No. Jesus didn't say, Martha, don't do that. He just said, but Martha, you must understand the better part, which I think is what God would have us understand today. The better part is to sit at the feet of Jesus and learn His ways and His wisdom. But guess what? It doesn't mean then don't get up and help with the dishes. You know who comes out better in the Scriptures in the end? Bruce's Sunday school class. Your speaker on the video pointed that out, didn't she? She says, I love Martha. Yeah. When Jesus comes back after her brother Lazarus has died, it's Martha. Mary just seems to kind of be there, reading her books, sitting in the corner, waiting for Martha to call her to dinner. But Martha's the one who trusts Jesus enough and loves Him enough that He can go up to Him and speak to him her heart. If only you had been here, my brother would not have died. Jesus doesn't ask Mary, well, what do you say about the resurrection? He asks Martha. Maybe Martha hadn't been sitting that day at Jesus' feet, but she knows this. Well, I believe in the general resurrection of the dead on the last day. Yes. So we need to look at it. So I wanted to maybe kind of stop us a moment here this morning, just a very brief message, but it tied together. And when Jeannie, last week, she gave a message we needed to hear. It was such a quiet and peaceful service. And she took out her phone, she took off her watch. She says, how many of you have calendars? Oh, you ought to see my calendar. Do it in color. A different color for every different activity. A different color for every different class I teach. A different color for every different meeting of the church and so forth. It's beautiful. And here on the third day of March, it's packed. Some of you saw it. You might ask me a fair question, Pat. You might say, by the way, when do you take time to read the Bible? Oh, I don't. I just trust what I say is in there somewhere. You know what I'm saying? And Jeannie was hitting us hard with that. In fact, if Mike doesn't mind me sharing, one day we were having a conversation and we were talking about programming. I think I kind of surprised Mike. I said, I'm almost tired of hearing about programming. We almost sometimes are so busy in the church, we miss why we're here. So I was sitting back there, and the Lord did the old NCIS on me and says, Terry, you need to follow up on this, absolutely, with the other side. But not countering. Folks, I would say, if I may be so bold as to kind of judge you, I think if Christianity is impotent in today's society, it's because we don't sit at the feet of Jesus enough. I think Jeannie's side was well presented. But then we can make a mistake, I think. I'm trying to be fair about this and a little balanced and soft. I think we make a mistake, though, that if our faith is only coming to church on a Sunday and loving the Sunday school lessons, loving the service, loving greeting one another, loving going to have a cup of coffee, and then we leave without any strengthening of our spirit within us, we have missed it. And that's why we need the counterbalance with Martha. You know who the first martyr of the Christian church was? And what was his position? He was what? A deacon, in essence. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. He did the tables. He decided the distribution between Greek Christian and Jewish Christian. It's right there in Acts, folks. The apostles, and I get kind of tickled about, well, what are we going to do? Did you catch the apostles? Well, we need to pray. Even I kind of react to that and go, why, you lazy so-and-sos. And then they give Stephen and the rest of the crew the jobs of doing the mission work. You all catch that? I think you can approach the Scripture with a little skepticism sometime. But no, the apostles had it right too. There had to be somebody fully in connection with Jesus, somebody in the Word, somebody praying, somebody preaching. In other words, the members of the body. We all have a different role. But in the end, all members are called to service. So Mary, yes, now you've heard Jesus for the last hour. We've eaten supper. There's dishes in the sink. Jesus did not mean for Mary not to get up and help. That's not addressed. What he addresses Martha about is, and I love the phrasing, Martha, you fuss and fret about too many things. And friends, if you're fussing and fretting in your daily lives right now, we have missed the target. So that's to us Marthas. But to us Marys. And if the worship committee doesn't mind me bringing this up, last Monday when we met, we think we're going to try and have a Lenten potluck. But we were mindful of all the other activities. But we said there is one Friday, the 5th of April, that lands between everything. So let's have a potluck. And I said, and I'll get the music. Let's have a nice evening together. Then one of the members of the committee says, well, I'm all for that, except who's going to clean up? And the member's point was, it seems like it's always the same 4 or 5 people who clean up after we plan these wonderful gatherings. You remember that part of our meeting, Lori? And I sat there and went, ooh dear. A reminder, we do need the Marthas. But what we need are people, both Mary and Martha. We need to take our time to not be anxious, to trust Jesus, to sit at His feet. And we do that with our Sunday school classes, our learnings in worship, our study groups, our prayer time. And all of us, from last week's part of the Word, we all need to examine whether we are sitting at Jesus' feet. Because if we are not, then we will be a Martha fussing about everything and knowing no peace and wondering why we never get anything done. But when we sit at Jesus' feet and learn from Him, we are clear in our mission and what we are called to be as servants of His kingdom. Then, from our prayers, we stand and we go out into that world and we serve. We build dams so the nation may have power. We gather the steers in and shut the gates of the corral so they stay in so that we can provide food. We do the work of service, of love. In other words, we honor both Mary and Martha and hear from these teachings a lesson to us that both count. Receiving Jesus and then not acting on His words of love is absurd. But working out there in the world without Jesus is a disaster. Mary and Martha, two lessons. They come together, rooted in Jesus, serving in His name. In closing, you might say, well, where does this have to do with the transfiguration? About being changed. Friends, you are here to sit at the feet of Jesus in worship so that we become changed through His Word and the presence of His Spirit in our hearts. But we are changed not just for ourselves. So I love this. I love this, when I get a chance to say, hey, I realized something new. 40 years as a preacher, Bob, and all the time I'm going, I never quite caught that. Why the gospel writer was moved by the Spirit to add what happens after they come down from the mountain. Folks, that's the Mary part. Look, he's transfigured. There's Elijah. There's Moses. Peter, of course, gets all excited like a Martha, fussing and fretting. We need to build booths. And the scripture says, well, they didn't even know what they were talking about. They missed the point. Jesus came to the mountaintop, and like in our prayer of the day today, we enter the valley of the world out there. And the disciples cannot drive the demon out of the young man, the boy. Have you got that? It was kind of slapped into me over the past couple of weeks of study. And then when Jeannie shared what she shared, that's right. We sit at the feet of Jesus. But then we go out. Having seen Jesus transfigured and confirmed as the Son of God, the first act after they come down off the mountaintop is the disciples were unable because they had done what while He was up on the mountaintop? Their eyes grew heavy. Garden of Gethsemane. Can't you stay awake? We can say that in church every Sunday. Okay. What happened? Jesus came down from the mountaintop and He gave us the example. He came down and He healed, He made whole, and He restored that boy to his dad. Folks, when we leave here, if we go, well, that was a nice service. The choir was wonderful. We enjoyed the communion. Everybody did so well. We had the coffee prepared for us. And we go out there and we don't do diddly squat. We missed it. So let's not knock Martha. That wasn't Jesus' point to her. Point was, all of us sit at His feet. Stay awake. Be alert. And then go out in His name and power and change the world. Not only we are called to being changed, but Jesus came so that the world through Him might be transformed, transfigured. And it begins with us.